don't even need a microphone, brother. You're on fire.
Hey, we pay our respects to the elders, past, present and emerging, here on the lands of the Yidinji people, looking out to the lands of the Gungandji and the Jabbergai Nation. And we acknowledge that thousands of generations have been looking after this beautiful, beautiful country. Hey, but Dylan, what a beautiful, beautiful room full of people.
It's incredible to be here, mate. I actually wanted to start by saying, excuse my French, how fucking grateful I am. I mean that. Like, you are the gatekeepers to people like me getting out and living my life and having choice over and control over my life. And the fact that these events have been going for a long time and disability was always an afterthought, but it's the year of accessible tourism in Queensland. I'm a proud Melburnian, don't hold it against me. But the fact that we're doing that in this awesome state, it's absolutely incredible. It really is. And it's changing the lives of a lot of people, but also making your businesses better in the process. You know what I mean? So to Minister Hinchcliffe, to the Premier, to everybody that's invested in accessible tourism, including yourselves, it's so cool to be here. It really is. So I just want to start by saying thanks.
Yeah, and thanks to him, man. Thank you for your inspiration, Dylan. The Year of Accessible Tourism is a conversation starter. It's not about solutions only, it's about getting conversations started. You hated the introduction. You wanted it to be over pretty soon. But I wanted to reflect just on some of those things. AO, former Australian of the Year, Paralympic gold medal winner 4 times, the Golden Slam, Wu-Tang Clan fan and all-round superstar. You've been travelling for a long time. Like, you got rollers at 17, 16. You started travelling the world. What have you seen change as a global traveller in a wheelchair over that last decade or more?
Yeah, I'm also a washed-up tennis player, by the way. Everyone pumps me up. But look, mate, it's getting better. It's getting better slowly.
Yeah.
But it is getting better. Just for context, because of the work that we do. I spent 245 days on aeroplanes last year, which is quite a few. So I do get to get around and see what's going on. And, what needs to change and what is changing is that investment in getting better. Yeah. And it's not about getting better just today and then forgetting about it. It's just a gradual shift to get better every single day. And the way that we do that is to listen to lived experience of people with disability, because we're the ones out there living it every day. And the fact that our lived experience is getting heard more and more is incredible, right? And what used to happen in the past is very, very well-intentioned able-bodied people speak to other able-bodied people about what people with disability need to say, access tourism or whatever it is. If you want to speak about somebody at a table, well, they need a seat at that table, right? And the fact that more and more, and I'm in a very privileged position where I'm a lucky person that gets to speak about it. There are so many incredible other people with disability that deserve to get their voice heard as well. And our consulting firm, GSA, where we educate governments and corporates and industry to better understand the needs of people with disability. We're working with pretty much everyone in the room these days because of the funding that we got off the government with the accessible tourism toolkit and all that kind of stuff here in Queensland. We hired 35 consultants. Nearly every single one of them has a different disability. Yeah. Because I am not the disability Dalai Lama, right? I do not know everything. I only know what I know. And there are much smarter people with me with other disabilities who deserve to get their voice heard as well, right? And I think we have been advocating for, and we're grateful that it's starting to get listened. The reason you should be accessible and inclusive of people with disability is not just to get social equity and to get the warm and fuzzy feelings in your belly. Yep. It's to make a shitload more money as well. You laugh, but what am I? I'm a consumer, just like you, who wants to access Queensland, just like you, who wants to get out with my family and friends and enjoy my life, just like you. It is a multi-billion-dollar market, the tourism market for people with disability, especially in this state alone, right? And you're all not accessing that for too long, right? Yeah. And it's a win-win because it enables us to get out there and live our lives. But in the process, it's good business to do it as well. And that's why people should invest in it. And like literally all the other states are like, why are we not doing this? And I'm like, I know, and the fact that Queensland is leading the way. And I was talking to my brother, Zach, who we run the consulting firm together with our incredible team. How much better all you are as providers, even after 12 months, is like staggering. We're so proud of the work that a lot of you have done in this room because you are setting, hopefully, the gold medal standard to 2032, right? Because there are going to be a lot of people here. right? And we just want the rest of this country to follow suit. And the fact that we're here even talking about this, mate, is incredible.
Yeah, and we're going to have Steph Agnew come up from Get Skilled Access. I got to go to Steph's workshop when she was here in 2022, and that lived experience storytelling, it doesn't just change what your knowledge is, it changes the way that you look at a situation. Picking up Buck's here in the front, I loved on the panel yesterday, Buck, on DestinationIQ, when you reminded us that if 15% of the travelling market face an access challenge and they bring their family and friends with them, it's a market bigger than China, right? Inbound China market is the example that you used, and I thought that was really powerful to encapsulate it. You know, when people said, you know, if Facebook was a country, it would be the most populous country on earth. You really nailed that. Talk to us about some of the Queensland lived experience. Anyone who's seen you speak before, we've seen your stories of Greece, you know, we know about your overseas travels. What are some of your experiences here in Queensland? Good, indifferent?
I actually had one of the worst experiences of my life here this year. I went to the prelim final and fucking Brisbane beat Carlton. Oh. And, right, I'm the Carlton #1 ticket holder. Sterling and the Premier. We were 5 goals up in the first quarter. I was so lippy. I was like, we're going on the granny, we're going on the granny. And then we lost. So that was tough. That had nothing to do with access. That just hurt my heart.
I know. Yeah.
You know what? I had my first ever holiday when I was young here. I was really sick as a kid. I was born with a tumour wrapped around my spinal cord that was cut out when I was a couple of days old, and pretty much exclusively spent the first 3.5 years of my life in hospital, and pretty lucky to make it out. And I was really lucky that I had an amazing family who really cared for me, loved me, but never wrapped me in cotton wool, right? They always gave me my voice so I could be independent and listen to what I had to say. And it's a really good learning for all of you. If you have consumers that come in with disability, don't tell them how it has to happen. Ask them how you want to do it together. It's about co-designing everything together. Yeah. And my family did that, right? And then I got sick again, went back into hospital, and I was pretty flat. And I was very lucky that I got a wish from a charity, and they asked me what I wanted to do. And I wanted to go to the Gold Coast and go to the theme parks. That was my first ever holiday. How cool is that? You know what I mean?
Shout out Gold Coast.
Yeah, yeah. And we love Cairns as well.
Yeah, thank you.
I gotcha. So I was actually up here, and, you know, I've always had a soft spot for it that got a lot softer when we heard the news about the investment in accessible tourism up here, and the way that the investment has genuinely, I don't think you understand, if you just do all of you, take a little bit of time to listen, learn, and actually do what you'll say, you will change people's lives. Yeah. You'll change my life. Yeah. You will. And we might never even tell you. But I'm telling you, you will. The feeling you get when you go into a room or a resort or a theme park or a restaurant, and it's accessible, but more importantly, inclusive of you as well. Yeah. They're two different things. That ramp makes it this stage accessible for me, right? But your unconscious bias and the way you view me and the way you talk to me and interact with me makes it inclusive. Yeah. They're two different things, right? The software and the hardware. Yeah. Yes, we have to invest in the hardware to make things accessible, but you've also got to invest in the software, right? Which is education, listen to lived experience, culture reviews, immersive experiences so you understand it. And you know that's what we specialise at GSA, and that's what we do. And the fact that people are now realising that there's no point having an awesome access like ramp, rails and interpreters if no one talks to you. Yeah. Or people don't let you in the room. Or they kick you off a flight, which still happens to people like me still. But when it happens to me, they're buying me a bottle of red wine and the CEO is calling me because they feel bad because they don't want me to go on Twitter. Yeah. What about, I'm serious, what about the 40-year-old lady with MS? Yeah. Or the young kid with autism? What's happening to them? And I remind myself of that every day. Yeah. And that's why my purpose has never been to win gold medals or Grand Slams. Never has been, never would, never was. It's to change perception so all people with disability all around the world can make the choice over their own lives and live the lives they deserve to live, right? And we can't do that alone. It's about all of us challenging that together and challenging that unconscious bias through co-design and listening to lived experience. And as I said, mate, the fact that it's happened here is pretty bloody cool.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. The Year of Accessible Tourism has provided funding for the hardware. It is providing through the Elevate funds up to $5,000 for operators to get part of the software together, the visuals. But you've also pushed the boundaries a little further again in your partnership with Tourism Australia and Shift 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk to us a bit about Shift 20 and what it means to be represented in the mainstream media.
Geez, you're good at this. So outside of our consulting firm, we've also got a non-for-profit called the Dylan Alcott Foundation. I know, shit name, unoriginal. We're in a rush, but we support young Australians with disability to achieve their dreams through scholarships and grants like equipment to become Paralympians, university and TAFE courses, pay for startups for those who can't afford it. But we also run awareness campaigns, one of which we just did was a Shift 20 initiative, is what it's called. So as you know, 1 in 5 Queenslanders have a disability, visible or invisible. 1 in 5 people in Australia, 4.5 million people. 1 in 5 people around the world, 20% of the world's population. Less than 1% of them are seen on our screens, right? Growing up, when I turned on the TV, the only time I saw myself was a road safety ad where someone drink drives, has a car accident. What's the next scene? Someone like me in tears because their life's over, deterring you from speeding or drink driving, telling you disability is the worst thing that can happen to you outside of death. As a kid who got bullied and hated himself, hated his disability, didn't want to be here anymore, how do you reckon that made me feel? It was hard. Right? We wanted to try and do something to change that, right? So we partnered with 13 of the biggest brands around the world, Macca's, Uber, Bonds, ANZ, Amy, Weet-Bix, Tourism Australia, and we changed all their commercials, replacing able-bodied actors with people with disability. For example, the Amy woman at the end of the end frame is blind. Her name's Lara. She's also singing the jingle, right? The Weet-Bix kid for the next 12 months is a young girl in a wheelchair called Eva. That would have changed my life if I was 13 years old. The Bonds ad, a guy called Nathan Borg, he's in his underwear talking about his comfy undies. It's all in Auslan, right? These ads, it went all around the world, right? And we're so grateful for the support that we had. But do you know why you should all do that? Because we're your consumers too.
Yeah.
We just want to be seen as normal people in normal ads doing normal things. You probably take for granted how often you see people like yourself. Turn your shoulder right now. There's heaps of people looking like you, correct? Right? You probably just don't even notice it. But the feeling of being included when you see yourself, the person that designed our website for it, who has a disability, he said, I've never had so many messages from our community saying, I've never felt more loved, heard, and included than I do right now watching TV.
Yeah.
Just seeing people like yourself. And all the Tourism Australia ads that are going online at the moment are just people with disability doing cool shit. Like going to the Barrier Reef and stuff, because we also want to go there. But it actually elevates the commercial as well. It's just good business to do it. But what it means for us to see ourselves represented is incredible. And we've had 1,500 requests to get involved since we launched with 13 brands. And it doesn't have to be big brands. It can be a small brand like yourselves in the room. Just do something on social media or whatever it is. Or just talk about the accessibility and inclusion stuff you're doing. You know, whatever it is. And if anyone wants to check it out, it's our website's shift20.org. But mate, it was really, really cool. And I can't tell you how grateful. It was our idea. We came up with it. I thought no one was going to give a shit about it. And then obviously some of the biggest brands got involved. Everyone here. It was really cool.
That's very cool. Another cool thing that I got announced this morning is Ability Fest. Hey.
Pretty glad we can talk about this
Coming
now.
to Queensland.
So we run a music festival. It's called Ability Fest. It's just like Splendor, just like Coachella. The only added difference is we have Beyond the Valley. We just have added accessibility features so people with disability can come with everybody mates and have a good time. We have platforms like this, pathways. We have Auslan interpreters from Auslan Stage Left who are here today on stage. We have a sensory area for those who are neurodiverse if they want to recharge and get in there. We have guide dog relief areas. We try to think of everything. All the funds go to our foundation to support young people with disability. And guess what? It's coming to Queensland. 2024. Got guaranteed this morning.
Yeah, huge thanks to the Queensland government for getting in and supporting this. Yeah.
I've been annoying Minister Hinchcliffe for a while, haven't I, mate? He's laughing because I have been. And to Sterling and to the Premier, when the Year of Accessible Tourism got brought here, we're like, we want to do it there,
Yeah.
right? And do you know why we want to do it? Because every Queenslander, no matter their ability, deserves to get out and have a good time with their mates.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, have we got time for one?
Yeah, man, yeah.
One quick story why it's an important day. We have in Melbourne, and my mate James is a doctor at the Royal Melbourne Hospital, and he had a young kid come in called Mark. Mark had a bit of a hectic disability. He couldn't breathe anymore. He was put on life support. He's about to pass away. And my mate James noticed he had an Ability Fest wristband on, which meant he came to the festival. And Mark got a bit better, and James said, "Did you go to Ability Fest?" And Mark said, "Yeah, why?" And James said, "I went as well. I grew up with Dylan." And James said he's never seen anybody's face light up like this before. And Mark said, "Can you do me a favour and tell Dylan that was the best day of my life?" Because he'd never been anywhere before. Not on a holiday, not a theme park, not a sporting event, not a music festival, anywhere. And an environment that was fully accessible for him, but more importantly, more fully inclusive of him as well, and just had fun. That was the first time. And not long after that, Mark passed away, and we call our main stage Mark Stage in honour of him every year. And the reason I'm telling you that is not to be like, hey, how good are we? Do you know what it took to organise? A little bit of effort, asking questions of lived experience, but most importantly, actually doing what you say you're going to do, not just talking about it, but action, and you will change people's lives.
Yeah.
That's when I learned that lesson.
Yeah.
You will change people's lives. And that's why we do it. That's why we do everything through our consulting firm, our foundation, Ability Fest, and the fact that we're bringing it here to Queensland. I'm bloody stoked. So, if you want free tickets, Minister Hinchcliffe is your man. All right? No, it's good. It's a fundraiser, so you got to buy them. But yeah, we can't wait to bring it here.
Get in and support it. This year is Year of Accessible Tourism, and every year between now and the 2032 Paralympic and Olympic Games has to be the Year of Accessible Tourism. Paint me a picture, 2032, the world's eyes are here, the world travellers are here, the world media are here. What are we getting right? What are we doing really well? And what are we not talking about or doing anymore that we used to do that is past behind us? What have we absolutely nailed in this next?
Yeah, firstly, we're listening, we're learning, and we're investing, basically. So you don't know what you don't know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And can I also say this? When you get involved with accessible and inclusive tourism and people with disability, you're going to get it wrong. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I get stuff wrong all the time, right? Don't be timid to engage for a fear of getting it wrong, because that then accidentally discriminates, right? Mistakes going to be made, and that's cool. Yeah. We have a call in, not call out attitude, whereby we work with people just to get better, every single day. Yeah. And the Paralympics saved my life. When I didn't want to be here anymore, I found sport. Yeah. I found my tribe. I found my community. I found people like me. I won a gold medal when I was 17 years old, when I was still in high school, with an even worse haircut than I got today. And it saved my life, mate. Changed my life. Yeah. But what the Paralympics represent is not just elite sport and inclusion. It has a flow-on effect to education, to employment, to people getting out there and enjoying their social life, to connection, to community, right? That's what the Paralympic Games represent. And the most important thing across this journey is making sure our lived experience is heard across every step in the way. Because you don't want to get too far down the path, whether it is building environments or educating or doing better, or listening and learning and trying to create some of that software without that lived experience. Because you're experts in what you know. I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs and do your job, but we are experts in what we know, people with disability. And when we come together and create that, the rest of the world are going to be envious. And what are they going to do? They're going to take it back home to their country, are they not? Yep. See how massive that opportunity is for us. I know I'm a big thinker, to change not just the lives of people living here, but other places as well. Yeah. It's that big of an opportunity, right? And it all comes down to that piece of action and understanding we are people with disabilities, but also our capabilities to get involved, to work within the 2032 Games, to work within your industries, to come to your respective industries as consumers, right? Challenge your unconscious bias of what you think we can do. Yep. Lift that expectation and do that journey together. And if anybody needs anything, sing out, because I'm so proud that the Paralympics, which is the warm-up event, no offense, to the Paralympics, is coming to this beautiful state. Yep. I'm really proud of it. And I'm making a comeback. No, fuck no. I'm not. I'm washed up. But, the fact that we can have an impact for so many people in this country across multiple industries, right, and changing perceptions, but also around the world is really, really cool.
Hey, Dylan, thank you, man. Thank you for your leadership, for your inspiration. You're all warmed up, right? Everyone feeling it? You're feeling that little buzz? Get your phones out, get your pens out. Let's do some stuff, right? So I'm going to bring the rest of the panel up now, if you're okay.
Everyone's sick of me.
Let's keep... No. We'll keep the yarn going. You continue on in the conversation. Let me bring the panel up. I'll introduce them as they come on up to stage. And then let's continue mixing what the tourism industry have learnt over the year of accessible tourism and yours and Steph's lived experience. So Stephanie Agnew, Steph is a really passionate advocate for inclusion and changing misconceptions, and I've felt that really personally in her workshop. She's senior consultant at Get Skilled Access, and she's going to share some of her stories today. Come on up to the stage, guys. Come on, up you come. Give them a round of applause. Yeah. That'll make them walk. Greg McKinnon is a caravan park owner, Big Four, Whitsundays. They've been putting in infrastructure, not only the accessible infrastructure, but safe spaces, the Riley Room, for kids who have got a neurodiverse outlook on the world. Lauren Horner is here from Community Partnerships Manager of Village Roadshow. I hope they're all coming up. Oh, here they are. They're already making their way. And they've been embracing new technology. Think about theme parks, millions of visitors en masse. They're adopting universal design and they're really embracing the technology. And Matthew May, who's coming right behind me at the moment. Come on in, Matt. He's Ops Manager at Paradise Resort, and they've been doing some really cool stuff for the neurodiverse traveller. So I'm going to get that out of your way. Furniture mover, I feel like Cameron Costello from yesterday. All right. Everyone feeling good? Everyone got the pens and the things out? If you haven't got 5 things, so before we finish today, I'm going to ask one of you, because I know all of your names. You know that, because I remember you all. I'm going to ask one of you to read out one of the things you're going to do differently. Steph, can I start with you? Please tell us a little bit about your story and how you're using your story to really help tourism businesses understand what it is to live with low vision and to understand the difference between access and inclusion and the types of access that suit different consumers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my name is Steph Agnew. I am a senior consultant at Get Skilled Access. And as you probably would have seen when I came up, I am using a white cane. So I'm completely blind, but I haven't been that way for my whole life. When I was 19 years old, I was diagnosed with a degenerative eye condition and told that I was going to go blind. Now, at that age, I knew nothing about disability and I loved to travel. And you know what? I thought I was never going to be able to travel again. So at the age of 23, I sold my car and I travelled around as much as I could because I wanted to see the world and this beautiful country of ours before I lost my vision. It ended up being 10 years that I slowly lost my vision, and as I said before, I'm now completely blind. But we all are at a different level of understanding when it comes to disability, and as Dylan said, we call in and we don't call out. And so what that means is you may be at the stage where you're like me. When I was first diagnosed, I knew nothing about disability. I said to you, I thought my life was going to be over. I thought I wasn't going to be able to travel. But I know now that I can absolutely travel. I just do it a little bit differently. And I share those stories through our accessible tourism program funded by DTIS over the last 18 months to really help you as tourism operators to understand from that lived experience. As Dylan said, it's really important that we get people with disability at the table to speak about what we need and our experiences so that you can learn from us and be able to embed that into your businesses, because there is so much opportunity for you as a business to capitalise on the accessible tourism market.
Yeah, Steph, I'll just follow up a little bit further. Tourism is renowned as being a visual industry, and we often say, see this, do that, look over there. You can jump on our website and see how it's going to work. And we miss a pretty big trick, right? We all feel a bit dumb when we say to you, can you just look over there? Oh, that's right, I remember. Talk to me about some of the simple things that you've done with businesses, tourism businesses here in Queensland through Get Skilled Access to help them work with people with low and no vision.
Absolutely, and don't worry, I still say, see you later. So don't worry about it.
I always go, let's go for a walk, and they go, fuck, what do I do? I go, no, I say walk. You don't have to say push and walk, it's okay.
Another thing at GSA that you might have picked up is we don't take ourselves too seriously. So I think for me, the way I travel is different now. I used to travel for the sites, but now I travel for sensory experiences. So information on your websites, not just for people who are blind or low vision, is super important because people with disability, we need to plan. It's really, really rare that we can have a spontaneous holiday. We need to know if that property is going to be accessible for us, that experience, all of the information that you can potentially put on your website, please do. Part of the Accessible Tourism Toolkit, we've got FAQs there, so it will really guide you in what information you should put on your website. For me, as a person who's blind, I look for those sensory experiences. So for those of you who may have listened to the Access That podcast, I spoke about my experience up here in beautiful Cairns and the sensory experience I had on Kuranda Rail. So if anybody here is from Kuranda Rail, thank you. That was an incredible experience. So if you think about it, Kuranda Rail is a scenic railway. So you think, how can a person who's blind experience that? Now, I was lucky enough when I could see, I had actually done it. And so I knew a few little tips and tricks, but there was audible descriptions on the train. So it would say, we're coming up on the left, and there will be a view out to the ocean and talking through exactly what was happening throughout the history. And that wasn't designed just for a person who was blind or low vision, but it was universally designed. So that information is for everybody. So for me, that was really fantastic. But the best part for me was I was lucky enough to be in gold class, and the food was amazing. I was only just talking earlier about the incredible mango sorbet. So for me, it's about feeling the atmosphere. Often I'll walk into a property and go, oh, this feels really nice. And the sounds and smells and those sorts of things. So describing what you have and your experiences on your website is really key to all people with disability.
Fantastic, thanks, Steph. Greg, I'm going to bring you in here. Greg, Big Four, Whitsundays, Resort Style Accom, award winner, seen it up in the awards many, many times. You've really embraced the economic opportunity that Dylan spoke about, but also the inclusive opportunity. Talk to us about the story behind the accessible cabins around Riley's room and how you got the support that you needed to make this happen.
Yeah, right. We're a family-run business, been in the Whitsundays for around 30 years. Mum and Dad and myself started a very basic park, and as we grew, we certainly followed the directions of our council and certain things there to bring cabins and so forth on into our business. We now have up to 81 cabins. We've got around 90 staff. We have 27 acres of resort facilities. And so with that, as we grew, we could see different avenues that we were missing out on. And we learnt that there was not only, in our trade, we're dealing with elderly people that can't move very well as people in wheelchairs and people that can't see and so forth. And so there's a very, very wide variety of areas that we could push ourselves into. We started to look for, as a regional town, for assistance, for guidance and for training and so forth. And where we went to there, QTech certainly offered some great things there. Our local RTO offered some great things there, and that allowed us to grow slowly. As we did that, we pushed ourselves into a thing that Big Four holiday parks are sort of pushing down the line of with a sensory room, and that opened up our eyes to a wide variety of different situations there. Riley's room is a sensory room. We didn't realise what we were touching into once we opened that room, and the amount of publicity and I'll say business that came out of that just through putting a room in and marketing it that way opened our eyes up to such a large variety. And you know, this was well before this conference came along, and to hear that 1 in 5 is in need of some sort of support of a room or a sensory room or an action, we put that in, and we're getting it on average 1 person, 1 family a day using that room. So that's 300, 400 people, 300 to 400 families that never would have come to us previously that are now using us. Now, the marketing ability on that, those people talk like anything. There were people coming from WA because we had that room. Now, you sort of go, that's a long way to go, but it just shows that the services aren't out there for that sort of family, and it opened our doors up to welcoming so many more people into our place. But it's no good putting that sort of place in as well if you can't educate your staff as well. Yeah. And so it's fine to put a building in or a service in that does a certain service to for a disability purpose. But if you don't have the staff trained as well in that purpose, you are going to suffer. And I'm sure Dylan will support that as well, because at the end of the day, your staff are then are your face to your business that then are lacking the ability to actually perform what the whole service is there for. And so that's been a huge thing through QTIC and through our RTO as well to train in that area. Yep.
So if you haven't picked up yet, there's two big tips there. One is the QTIC website. You've heard the DITIS website. So when I'm coming back to you to tell me the 3 things you're going to do, that's some easy ones that Greg's given you there. Lauren, on the flip side of that, Greg's just spoken about how important it is to do staff engagement. Village Roadshow welcomes millions of visitors. You've done some technology stuff. You've brought your staff on the journey, but you also face some really unique challenges in your performances, because you've got wildlife as well in the mix. Talk us through Village Roadshow's approach to access and inclusion and that whole idea of training.
Yeah, so we obviously have people team members and they go through our accessibility training programs, but we also have animal team members and they also need to go through accessibility training. So we have a variety of wildlife encounters. It's a really important part of our conservation outcomes. By having those close experiences, they're able to build lifelong connections with wildlife and go on to be ambassadors for biodiversity. But it does create a couple of unique challenges that we needed to address. So say, for example, with our koala encounter for guests like Steph who are low vision and might be using an assistance animal, if you're a koala, a dog's actually a predator.
How does Rocky go with a koala, Steph?
He is not allowed to go into certain areas. So guide dogs are allowed to go into many, many areas, but often in zoos or animal encounters, he needs to stay outside, and I completely respect that.
Yeah, very
Rocky says lunch. Yummy.
Yeah. So at Paradise Country, Rocky would be welcome. And how we got around this particular challenge is we have our dogs that come over from Australian Outback Spectacular on a regular basis, and they go through a desensitization process with our koalas. That's accompanied by lots of treats and lots of pats. So the koalas start to experience that as a really positive encounter. Yeah. And that's one way we've been able to move into that. Over at SeaWorld, we do have an in-water dolphin encounter for guests who use wheelchairs. And from there, we had a bit of a different challenge with the dolphins who are not shy in the slightest. They're very curious, they're very excited. And for them, it was about training them that this was not an exciting new toy for them to play with. Yeah. So our dolphins went through a process of learning to respect some personal boundaries.
Yeah.
The dolphins can play with my wheelchair anytime, right? Get me in there.
That's
sounds
definitely
awesome.
on my bucket list.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. You're welcome anytime, Dylan.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of bringing that back to operators in this room here, you may not have koalas and dolphins that need to go through accessibility training, but you will be preparing your venues to welcome animals. And that can be simple as having relief areas for the animals, having water facilities, opportunities, areas where they can be fed, accommodation, say cold or extreme heat. Having that information available on your website so people can understand that up front. And if you're a cruise operator, dogs do get seasick. So you can help your guests understand how they can support their animals to partake fully in your experiences.
Yeah. Steph, share some lived experience of travelling with Rocky. You talked on the Access That podcast about taking him on the plane, having him at your feet, and he's not a small dog, is he? He's quite robust.
No, he's about 37 kilos.
Yes.
So, he is a big black Labrador. So he is allowed to come. There are some challenges in people understanding access rights. So particularly sometimes in cafes or restaurants, we've come up against barriers around being denied access. So a guide dog or assistance animal, fully trained, registered animal is allowed to go pretty much anywhere except for a hospital, commercial kitchen, and also some animal areas, as we spoke about. But that sounds really cool about desensitising the koalas. So that can be a really big barrier, but also the information around what toileting areas are available. So often when I travel with Rocky and we're in accommodation, it can be really hard for me to know where I can toilet him, particularly if I'm staying in a city and there's no grassed areas around. So I will usually have to call a hotel to understand, where is a grassed area, or do you have a courtyard where I can toilet my guide dog? So that can be a bit challenging trying to find that information. It comes back to what I was talking about before about the information that's available on your website so that we can appropriately plan. And if you also have that kind of information on your website, it creates another benefit for you, and that's signs and symbols of inclusion. Yeah. So if a website has accessibility information on there, I get really excited and go, oh, this organisation really cares about this. They're trying to do their best. I'm going to go and support them. And the disability community talks. So when we have a really great experience, we will share that and shout it to the rooftops.
Yeah, and that's just good business in tourism, right? 67% of product and destination choice is word of mouth. Tribes stick together. They recommend. And if you're not providing good service, then you won't be recommended.
Can I just add to that as well?
Please.
Not just us. My girlfriend comes with me. My brother, my friends.
Whole tribe.
So when you really compound it out,
yeah.
right, it's a lot of people who actually have that opportunity to get out there. And when, I don't want to speak on behalf of my family and friends, but when they see me being treated properly, it changes their experience too. Yeah. And then they come back as well. And the fact that that narrative around it is changing is awesome.
So Matthew, I'd really love to bring you in there. Matt, operations manager at Paradise Resort. We talked over the last couple of days about repeat visitation. You've got families who've been coming back to Paradise Resort for 17 years. You've built this really tight connection around access and inclusion, and particularly inclusion for families with neurodiverse kids. Talk to us about where that came from, the culture of the business, and to Dylan's point just then, what does it mean in terms of what's happening at Christmas this year, what's happening at Easter? Yeah.
So it goes back about 25 years when the company committed to investing multi-million dollars in a kids club, and we decided that we wanted to be an exclusive family resort. If you stayed at the resort, no matter kids age 0 to 14, you're included a kids club daily session where they had a chance to integrate with other kids, have fun while they're on holiday. That went on for 15 years, and about 10 years ago, we decided we were doing such a high volume of kids. We had nearly 700 kids a day in-house, and 300 of those using our kids club. So we thought we've got to do more for kids to enjoy their holiday. We developed an activities program that included ice skating, rock climbing, teddy bear workshops, all sorts of activities that they can do. So during that time, we've gone from realizing, I think it used to be special needs, and then we've called it additional needs, and now we're calling it neurodivergence. And our staff along the way have seen, the need for extra care in those areas. The last 10 years, I feel like the communication has really improved from the parents advising us when they book their child into an activity that my child might have ADHD, they've got on the spectrum and autism. So then we're able to tailor our sessions to those children. We're able to make sure that they're included and we don't look down on them as, those are the naughty kids that were in our program yesterday. We're very pro-inclusive that we come upon it so much and so often. As I said, 700 kids in-house at any one given time. We know that we're going to have several kids with neurodivergence and that need a little bit extra attention. So we've invested heavily with our staff in our kids club, our activities department, and even throughout in our food and beverage, that they are trained in those areas. They know how the techniques to use to help calm and soothe children and to create an environment where they feel safe. One of our slogans is we're a heaven for kids and a paradise for parents. And to do that, we have to invest heavily in training. We don't look at it as we might get one child per day that needs additional care. We look at it that any child may need additional care. And because of the education that we're providing for our staff, the training workshops that they go through, we're able to then communicate well with the children and make one-on-one decisions on how we can manage them so that they feel safe and they have a wonderful holiday. And also it's about the parents too. You know, the parents deal with the stress of life, and we also create an environment for them where the parents can feel relaxed, they feel like they're in our professional care with our activities team and our kids club, and that the family holiday can become a very relaxing and enjoyable time for everyone.
My parents would have loved that as a kid. When I was a kid, someone else looking after me, they get pissed at the bar as well and spend. So, but to have that opportunity, like, as a young person with disability, you actually feel that burden and guilt as well sometimes.
Yeah.
That your parents and the people around you are always caring for you. So to be able to offer that, it's not just for the young people with disability, it's for the family to get out there, and that's awesome.
And the flip side to that too is that, you know, if you do have a child that's neurodivergent, it's also reflective on their siblings as well. You know, they may not get the attention at home because there's a little bit more attention put on a particular child that has more needs. And we're able to provide an environment where the siblings can relax too and have a fun environment where, you know, they're all looked after, including the parents. So we really spend a lot of time on our training with our staff to make sure we're accepting of any neurodivergent.
Yes, I want to just take that one step back from me. How do you create a safe space for a consumer who hasn't had word of mouth, who is looking to see, is this a place that's going to be right for me? And how do you open up that conversation? And then to Dylan and to Steph, I'd love to know, like, what works for you? Do you need an access rider? Do you have something that you send in advance? You guys have a survey that you do. You ask some questions up front. You have FAQs on your website. How are you opening up that conversation to create a safe space for the parents to say, this is a place that's going to welcome us and not going to judge us?
Well, I think it starts with our theming. We're not just a building that inside looks lovely. As you drive in the front entrance, we've got zoo animals out the front, rhinoceros, giraffes, elephants. So the moment you pull into the driveway, it says, this place is fun. This is for kids. You walk into the lobby, mom and dad are checking in. We've got a jungle gym for the kids indoors, so they don't have to wait in the car and mom and dad, you know, they're yelling and screaming in the car. You go past the jungle gym to the restaurant. There's a play area in the restaurant. As soon as you walk out from the restaurant, there's a water park, a small water park for age 0 to 5, a large water park for mom and dad. So we have facilities all throughout the resort that says this is kid-friendly. I don't have to worry that if I'm in the restaurant and my spaghetti spills on the floor, it's no big deal. If I throw a tantrum in the front office because I'm not feeling well, it's no big deal. It's the norm for us. All our staff are used to it, and we accept, you know, those types of behaviors, and it's our job to, you know, create a safe environment for them.
Steph, to come back to you, you're travelling with Rocky. You talked before about where does he toilet? Is this place a welcome space? Do you send information in advance? Would you like to be able to provide some clarity? What's the best way to communicate with you to ensure that by the time you arrive, you're totally at ease? You know that this is going to work. There's nothing that you need to consider. Because for all travellers, that's the biggest challenge, right? Taking the uncertainty out of the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, it's more about how I'm going to be treated when I get there. So whilst the information will be really great, I think it's embedding the questions for everybody and not just for people with disabilities. So if we think about when you send out an event invitation out, what do you ask everyone? Do you have any dietary requirements? So it's really easy to add on to that additional question, whether it's checking into a hotel or an experience or those sorts of things. Do you have any access requirements so we can make sure that your experience is really inclusive for you, or something along those lines. So embedding those sorts of questions, then it gives me the opportunity to either disclose what I might need, or maybe I'm traveling with my husband and I don't need anything. So I think that information is really important. So asking those sorts of questions, but making sure it's to all guests and not just specifically to guests with disability, because then it's overall inclusive. And we know that, you know, over 80% of people that have disability actually have a non-visible disability. So you won't be able to actually physically see that disability. So if you're asking it to all guests, you are creating that really inclusive environment. Dylan?
And Dylan, you're mad adventurous, but do you have requirements? Do you have things that you look for when you're planning a trip?
Yeah.
That's going to make this easier for me and my family.
I think the biggest lesson out of this for people with disability, and I'll tell you a lived experience story last week in a sec, but the compliance and the regulation is the floor of what you should do.
Yeah.
You as an industry, no offense, fall back on compliance all the time. I'm doing what I have to just to get by and not get sued and get in trouble. That's the bare minimum of what you should do in this industry, right? An example was I was on we'll be careful, mode of transport last week.
A mode of
And the
transport.
person was telling me how I was going to get in my wheelchair. And they outlined how it normally works. And I said, "G'day, I'm Dylan," when they finished. And they went, I was like, "What's your name?" Right? And then they introduced themselves. There's a good start. And then I said, "Hey, so I do this bit. Normally for me, got interrupted again and told me how to do it." Right? They were just going on the rules and regulation their boss told them. So they didn't get in trouble. Right? We had a bit of back and forth and it ended up getting sorted out. Right? But if you want to find out something about your able-bodied co-worker or your able-bodied consumer and customer, what do? Ask them a question.
You ask them.
Yeah, when people with disability roll into any of your industry, there is a fear of getting it wrong, or you have read some kind of manual around what should happen here, and rather than ask them their name and say, "G'day, thanks for coming, what do you need today?" There is a disconnect there often, right? So 2 people in wheelchairs, 2 people who are blind, 2 neurodiverse kids are not the same. Disability is a very, very wide breadth, which is cool, because we're all different. But I can understand how that makes challenges for you. Because I did that one time with an autistic kid and it went wrong. Or that one wheelchair guest we had, or whatever it is. Everyone is different, right? And as I said, you're going to stuff it up sometimes, and that's okay. But it's about listening and learning from that lived experience, and the best way to do that, in a tactful way, don't say, "G'day, champion, what happened to you?" Or whatever it is, right? Which happens.
Which happens.
My number one question is that, or can you have sex? And I say, "Not until you buy me a beer first." But as long as you...
They've said that one before.
Yeah, as long as you build that rapport
Yeah.
and you come from the right place because you care. Because you care about your customers or you care about your co-workers, right? That's the best way to go. So my access rider is talk to me.
Talk to me. Yeah.
Ask questions. And yes, I send things in advance, but they might not read that because it just gets lost in admin. And that's okay as well. Just talk to me, ask me, and then we co-design together the best way for both of us. Because if there is some reason why they don't want me to do that, I go, "I understand that, that's cool. Thanks for explaining it so nicely." Right? It's about creating that safe space where we can both effectively do what we want to do together by asking those questions.
Lauren, can I come back to you? Just picking up on that idea. There is a huge gradient of consumers of all different needs. And I love the way that Steph explained, ask about food needs, ask about access and inclusion needs. How have you guys used universal design? Because you put a lot of people through, right? People with all different requirements. Where's technology playing a role? How are you using universal design to get the best return on investment for your business and maximise your customer engagement?
Yeah, so I guess when you have 6 million guests a year, that's a lot of one-on-one conversations to be able to facilitate. So we've definitely leaned on technology to be able to facilitate that feedback and that co-design. So the very first thing we did around our business case was to work out how many guests we were having coming through the park. And we worked on a group basis because, as Dylan pointed out, it's not about necessarily the individual, it's the groups that they're travelling in. And if we're not accommodating for the individuals, we're not accommodating for the group and we'll lose the entire travel booking. So for us, we've only sort of really started to delve into this data, but it looks like about 12% of groups coming through the theme parks have additional accessibility requirements. So for us, that's quite a significant cohort of our customer base, but we also know that when about 20% of the population has an accessibility needs, we're also missing about 8% of the potential market. So there's a lot of room for us to grow there. So sort of understanding that business case and how your organisation's sitting into it's a really great place for you to start. But then we had to work out, now that we knew how many people we had, we didn't really know anything about them or what they needed from us to have an exceptional experience. So we built an accessibility qualifier into our NPS survey, which every guest gets. Do you identify as anybody in your group having enhanced accessibility needs? Would you like to tell us more about it? Those that answer yes receive a second disability-focused survey. It has quantifying questions, but it also has open form questions as well, where they can leave us a lot of feedback. And this is proving to be invaluable for us. A lot of the assumptions that we were making as an organisation, we're finding are actually incorrect. And it's meant that we're able to pivot, to look at where we need to prioritise our effort, because we'd love to do everything all at once. But the reality of a commercial environment is sometimes you have to prioritise investment first. And before we've gone too far down a particular path, getting this feedback in terms of co-design means we're really able to kind of target a few key areas to begin with and then keep working through that process. So say, for example, neurodiversity's come through really, really strong in our feedback, as you've sort of spoken about with your organisation as well. But then once you get to the point where you identify where you want to place your next effort or what your next project is, we're working with universal design principles to try and make sure that whatever we're doing is not both beneficial to our guests with accessibility needs, but actually benefits all of our guests. And universal design principles are sometimes not always completely feasible. Say, for example, with us, roller coasters is proving to be quite a challenge. It's an area that we're going to continue to strive to work towards improvement. But if you're consciously embedding universal design considerations into your decision-making framework, into your design principles, you're going to start moving in the right direction, particularly if that's happening at all levels of your organisation. An example of, for us, where this has worked really well is with our brand partners, SeaWorld Cruises. They're here with us today. Probably down at the back somewhere. And we were brainstorming as to how we could get a better whale watching experience for guests with mobility issues. We had vessels that had legacy features, which meant certain areas of the vessel were not accessible. And it was not feasible for us to go through and change that infrastructure. So what we ended up doing was installing 180-degree cameras underneath the vessels and live streaming the whales from underneath the water into our guest phones and also through digital screens all around the vessels. So this greatly enhanced the accessibility experience, but it also greatly enhanced the the general experience of all of our guests. And as far as we know, this is actually a world first for wildlife tourism. So something that started as a potential solution for an accessibility challenge has actually turned into a really unique selling point for the entire operation.
Yeah, and that's the best thing about universal design. If you don't know what it is, as I said, so everybody can access. Has anyone ever sent a text message before?
Yeah.
Anyone? Do you know, you think that's designed to make your life easier, yeah? Do you know that was designed so a deaf person could use a phone? Did you know that? What about voice to text on your phone? Is that to make your job easier when you're driving, yeah? So you can talk? It's so someone like Steph can access a phone. That's why it was invented. What about the automatic door to get into this beautiful new facility in Cairns? Easy for you, yeah? So I can get in the door without opening it. And actually, when done properly and invested in, as you said, from the start, makes all our lives better as a process. So you're not just making my life better or Steph's life better or possible. You're making my life possible, but you're enhancing it for absolutely everybody that's going to use any of your organisations, because disability might hit you at any point as well. You might have a disabled child, you might get sick, whatever it is. And the time, as we said, to get ready for it is now. And hearing stories that people are learning and listening about universal design and implementing it, that shows why industry-wide it should happen.
Yeah, and when we started out on that process, we never thought where we were going to end up with it. But we're really, really glad we embarked on it.
Do people in wheelchairs still get to cut the lines? Because I haven't lined up for a ride in my life as well. So we're talking about all the negative things, but there's some positive things too. Right?
So we do have companion bands.
Okay, good.
And we do have cue cutting bands.
Cue cutting bands, leave them. They're good. We like them.
So we definitely work both in terms of sort of a human-to-human process, as well as the technology piece.
Steph?
Rocky's pretty good at that too.
Yeah.
I've taught him how to just cut straight to the front of the queue. He'll say, sorry, didn't see there was a line there.
You can see the business case, right? It's pretty bloody obvious. But Greg, I'm sure I've heard businesses say, that's easy to do in the cities, that's easy to do when you've got lots of infrastructure, but we're in a remote area or we're in an industry where that's not possible. I was really impressed to see Ben Klassen jump into the conversation today and say national parks is seriously looking at how do we get people of all abilities into our protected areas to enjoy them. How do we make that happen? I heard Kari from the Access That talk about horse riding through the rainforest. That's sort of like an awesome, fun thing to do. Did you have any real challenges with the accessible rooms and the cabins, being in the Whitsundays, being in a regional area? Did you get pushback?
Yeah, look, regional places do have more of an issue from educational points of view, and I suppose the first step is very, very hard. The biggest bit of advice I can give you is start off with one project, don't start off with 20. And start off with that one and complete it and feel comfortable with it, and then move on to the next thing. You don't need to put 100 things in at once or 5 things in at once. One thing is a start, and once you gather the information there and the assistance you may get from it could be from your council, could be from your RTOs, grow from that and just keep adding more and more, and you'll be surprised at how that has absolutely added to your quality of your business. Your staffing will enjoy it as well. Bring your staff into it. Don't keep them out of it. Bring them in, ask them for advice on where you would like this business to be from an accessibility point of view or disabled point of view. They're on the front of your business. They're the ones that are actually hearing a lot of the back and forth from a guest that may be struggling with what you're actually offering. And so they may have some great advice as well of how you can actually start your process and get into that whole area of accessibility and so forth. Cabins, we have councils that force us into putting cabins in, and Dylan brought it up there. It is part of a commitment to do that in our regions. Our cabins are wonderful, but also put the variety of cabins in. Don't just sit there with the one style of cabin as well. There's 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. So if you're offering that in your overall program of accommodation, offer it in all avenues so everyone can actually enjoy that same thing as well. So look, regionals absolutely, but you have to ask for help and try to also gang up with another organisation that may be encouraged to do that as well. It could be a boat operator, or it could be a coffee shop that needs some assistance. And so if you're going in as a gang, you get a little bit more weight in your ability to pull a training schedule, and that then encourages your local RTO to actually look for it for you, and then hopefully the town jumps on it and grabs and goes that way. But certainly don't be scared of asking and putting your hand up and seeing a direction from your local authorities.
Yeah, very cool. Steph, can we change the tone a little? We've been talking a lot about the guest experience, but tourism employs 1 in 10 people in this state. You played a really integral role in Recruitable, a national pilot program designed to remove the barriers for mainstream recruitment to be more accessible and inclusive for the candidates with disabilities. Can you talk us through that? What does that look like? What do the people in the room do to say, we want to be more inclusive and we want to provide an environment that a wide range of people. We talk about workforce shortages. What about people with disabilities? Talk to us about Recruitable and how that works.
So Recruitable is all about making the mainstream recruitment process accessible and inclusive for people with disability. So I was unemployed for a couple of years. My first career was in real estate, and when I went completely blind, I couldn't get another job. Nobody wanted to employ me. I couldn't get a job for 2 years until I happened to stumble upon Dylan, and he offered me a job. But the unemployment rate for people with disability is double that of people without disability, and it hasn't changed in over 20 years, which is just mind-blowing to me. So people with disability have so many skills, and we know that particularly in the tourism and hospitality industries, there is a real shortage in the market. But people with disability, we're just as productive, if not more productive, than other employees. We take less sick days. We're problem solvers. I have to get up every morning and think about, what am I going to wear? And what colour is that? So we are problem solvers every single day. We are innovative. I'm constantly coming up with different ways to do things, even thinking about different ways to travel. How am I going to do that? How am I going to have a great experience just like a sighted person? So there is a real opportunity there for you to be inclusive. Sometimes we hear from organisations, well, I don't know where to find people with disability. we, Dylan and myself, have both been involved with a new organisation called the Field Jobs, which is a specific, it's basically like a Seek or a LinkedIn or those sorts of things where people with disability can go on there and find jobs, and organisations that want to employ people with disability can go there. And what that's done is it's opened up another avenue for people with disability like myself and like others to be able to find employment. There are so many different resources out there for you to be really inclusive. And remembering that you might think, oh, but my organisation is heritage listed and it only has stairs, so I can't employ a person with disability. Well, there's 20% of the population has disability, and out of that 20%, only 4.4% are wheelchair users. So when we think about disability, often we think about physical disability, but there are so many different types of disability, and you can really take advantage of that.
Fantastic. A final word, Dylan.
Steph nailed it, especially around the employment. The reason, to be blunt, that you should employ more people with disability because your staff should represent your consumer base. Yeah, exactly. Correct? Right.
Yep.
What you see within should what you see without, and hence why we have Recruitable and the Field.jobs where thousands of people are waiting to get jobs. So if you look and put the job ads up there. But the final thing is this. The time to do this was yesterday. Yeah. Right? The time to get involved. And as you said, it's not about eating the whole cake straight away. No. Just do something to get better every single day, to progress and to provide opportunities to be a more inclusive organisation, but a more inclusive state and country as well. And there'll be mistakes made along the way, but it's blunt, but just have a crack. Have a crack and listen to lived experience and of the people up here and the resources available. And yeah, I honestly want to look back in 5 years and be redundant. I mean that. I don't want to have to get up here and talk about this because we're all doing it, right? And that's a fair goal, I think. I think it's a fair goal to achieve, but it's about all of us doing it together.
See you here in 5 years' time. Massive round of applause for Dylan Alcott, for Matt May from Paradise Resort, for Lauren Horner from Village Roadshow. Thank you so much, Steph, for joining us again. Steph Agnew from Get Skilled Access and Greg McKinnon from the Big Four in the Whitsundays.